Hey, vinyl community, it's Robert Fithen doing the quarantine vinyl tag for this year. Thanks so much to Dylan from Noble Records for coming up with this idea. It's a great idea because a lot of us seem to have kind of drifted off a little bit since the stay-at-home thing and the whole pandemic going on, and I'm hoping everybody's doing okay. Some of the vinyl community video people I used to like to watch have kind of disappeared, and I'm hoping everybody's all right. So this is a great way for everybody to just kind of check in, if nothing else. But vinyl quarantine vinyl tag. Here we go. Question number one: favorite record from your home state or city? I am in Illinois. I am not anywhere near Chicago. I'm about 10 minutes away from St. Louis, so I'm Metro East Illinois. So that would be like Uncle Tupelo, or split it off into Sun Volt and Wilco. Although I think Wilco now considers himself a Chicago band. Gary Rithrath from Mario Speedwagons from Belleville. Jack Wagner went to Granite City High for a while. Gretchen Wilson's from Pocahontas. Michael McDonald from the Doobie Brothers, not from California. He's from Ferguson. Tina Turner's from was in St. Louis for a while. Was discovered in St. Louis. And Peebles from East St. Louis. But I think, having mentioned all those people, and there's all kinds of great indie bands and stuff, I think you really just have to give it up to Mr. Chuck Berry. You can't do St. Louis without Chuck Berry. I mean, bathroom cameras aside, this guy's a legend. Let's get one with his picture on it. This guy's a legend. He's, one of the founding fathers of rock and roll. So when you're from that area, I think you'd be really, proud to tell people that you're from the place where Chuck Berry's from. And we've got our Chuck Berry statue here. We've got our Chuck Berry restaurant. He lived here still, even after, for years and years and years. And Chuck Berry, St. Louis. Give it up. Okay, question 2. An album you highly recommend. That's kind of weird because I don't know who I'm talking to right now. It depends on the person. If it's somebody that's really into heavy metal, I'm going to recommend something different than I would somebody who's into country or whatever. So I just don't randomly recommend things. I mean, I have to know the person, but I will. So I will recommend this though. Let me do this. How about that as a recommendation? It's not like the best album in the world. It's not the Clash's best album. But my point is, if you're working from home or if you're got the stay-at-home quarantine going on, you're stuck, you're bored, great time to pull out those triple albums or quad albums or whatever, quadruple albums, and listen to, full, long stuff that you wouldn't be able to necessarily hear if you wouldn't have time for it any other time. So yeah, triple albums from the Clash or maybe some live Grateful Dead albums or the Wings live triple album or maybe a box set. But yeah, the triple album. Now's the time. There's time. So that's what I would recommend. I'd recommend you take your favorite triple R album or even more and give it a listen. Tip for a beginner. Records have one hole, not two. Okay, actually a real tip for a beginner. This is just my opinion. This is just something that I kind of don't get. The Vinyl Me Please type mail order thing where people are like, here's my money, go buy me some records type thing. The whole internet is there. If you're going to go out and buy a brand new sealed, brand new record for like $25, $30, know something about it first. You got the whole internet there. Check out some of the tracks, or at least a few seconds of some of the tracks. I wouldn't necessarily do blind buys. I know that sounds like a cool thing to do, but I used to have to do that. We had to do that kind of thing sometimes back in the 80s and 90s because we didn't have the internet with all the songs on there to check them out first. I got burned so many times. When you do blind buys, you end up with things like this. The Crucifix. You know what the best thing about these guys are? Their name. And that's why I got it. I was a teenager. I was a little punk. Thought, oh, fuck, Crucifix, yeah. It's horrible, It's on Alternative Tentacles. I thought it was going to be like the Dead Kennedys. So, yeah. But I had I didn't have the internet. I mean, some stores you would walk in and they would have these little booths where you could put on headphones and listen to certain CDs before you bought them. But now... I mean, you youngins, you got the whole internet there with all those, you can check out anything before you buy it. Now, if you want to do blind buys, on like $1, $2 albums. Look at that crazy cover. I'm going to get this. I totally get that. But I wouldn't necessarily do blind buys on brand new, like $25, $30 albums. Spend that money on an album you're actually going to love and listen to. Plus, when you go in and you only buy in stuff that you know you like, when you have your collection, then it's your collection. Your passion really shows in your collection. When you just blind buy stuff or buy, like I did a couple of times in like, collections, then you end up with like a bunch of records, but a bunch of stuff in there that you really don't like. And so, yeah, make your collection, if you're just starting out, make your collection really stuff that you really want and would want to listen to. Number 4, first record that really got you into deeper music. I don't really understand that question. I mean, I always, it depends. I don't know how to answer that. Number 5, an obscure record people may not know about. I wish I had the record. It's Kaleidoscope. This incredible a band from England in the 1960s. I think 67 this came out. Psychedelic. It's a CD. I'll put it a little closer. Psychedelic rock. The reason I don't have the LP is because, this has a lot of bonus tracks on it, actually, that are really good, too. But I don't have the record because I'm waiting to find the color vinyl autographed one that they came out with a few years ago, where these guys actually got back together, played a few concerts in England. It was just like, wow, incredible. But I don't know too many people that know very much about these guys. And if you want their original album, it's like $1,000. It's incredibly expensive, collectible. But this is a great band. And then their other album, Faintly Blowing, is pretty good too. But I prefer their first one, Kaleidoscope, album that's kind of obscure. Kind of hard to find. I have the CD. Just went in that direction with it. Sounds great. Number 6, a group who you collect all of their albums or try to. This was a question that was on, I think, the other vinyl tag for the beginning of the year. And I talked about Canned Heat, but I didn't show the album. So I'll go ahead and show some of these. These are actually in reverse order here. So this is their first one. A lot of covers on here, but still a pretty good album. Good way to start. Kind of a kickoff thing there. Looks like we've got their second one, Boogie with Canned Heat. Actually, they're Living with the Blues, I think, is their second one. I'm currently listening to that one. So it's not with these double album. The whole second record is just a big jam. Boogie with Canned Heat. This great one, too. That, of course, now you're with the second and third albums, you've got their 2 hits that everybody knows, Going Up the Country and On the Road Again. Hallelujah. Pretty good stuff on here. Love a lot of their album tracks. The instrumentals like Change My Ways. Time Was. Love that song from these guys. Just a lot of great stuff on here. Same All Over kicks this off. This is another great Canned Heat album. Future Blues. A lot of big jamming on side 2 on this, but Sugar Bee's a great song. Let's Work Together, kind of a cover song there. Later redone, kind of reimagined by Brian Ferry. You got them hooking up with John Lee Hooker for this double album, which this just kind of sounds like you're a fly on the wall. I love the way that this came out, where they just let the tape roll and just, it's all on the album. All the studio chatter, all of the... like I said, it's just like you're right there. Unfortunately, Al Wilson, they just have a picture of him. He's unfortunately gone at that point. A couple more here. Then they get kind of irrelevant. The later records are just kind of like, eh. But, what is this? The Golden Age, I think it's called. Doesn't have it on the Golden Age. This one's okay. Here's where they start to slide a little bit. This one's a little better. Historical Figures and Ancient Heads. It's not a double, but it's got a great, I love that blue on that gatefold there. Great picture there. A little better than their previous one. And then a lot of people loving this live album here. Live at Topanga Corral. And that opens up nicely. Nice shot of the band there. Although this was not recorded at Topanga Corral, I think this was actually recorded somewhere else and they made a mistake or whatever. So Canned Heat. Of course, I have all the Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and the Monkees, but you guys have seen those all before. Other people have those. So number 7, a band whose second album is better than their first. I've watched a lot of the other videos. I agree with a lot of what people are saying. Led Zeppelin 2, I definitely prefer that over Led Zeppelin's debut. Um, the band, they're self-titled, a little better than Music from the Big Pink. I thought I would go a little controversial. Not only not show records, but show CDs, but be the guy that says that I actually prefer Pearl Jam Versus over Pearl Jam 10. Wasn't a huge Pearl Jam fan when this came out. I thought they were okay. They were all right. The songs in here kind of sound murky, echoey. They're really long. Like the big songs here are all over 5 minutes long. They just go on and on. I love Even Flow, but I like the remix, the video version, the single mix of that. It's a lot cleaner sounding. It doesn't have that murky, echoey sound. Jeremy, the remix of that's the same way. The single version doesn't have the F word, but you can put it back in if you want. Pearl Jam Versus, though, is where they get really tight. The songs are shorter. They're a little more punk rock sounding. That murky, echoey, dungeony sound is gone, replaced by super clean production. Love it. Go is a great. I think Go kicks off an album better than Once does. Go is on here. Animal, love that. Dissident, love that. Rearview Mirror is on here as well. The two songs the most people know on here, Elderly Woman in the Counter and Daughter, are on here. I'm not as big a fan of those, but great album overall, and I definitely prefer Pearl Jam's second album over their first. That actually kind of made me a fan of Pearl Jam. I went and saw them live at the Fox Theater after that was released. Wouldn't have even cared to see them live when 10 came out. Okay, so number 8, Show and Tell, a Whack-A-Mole. Whack-A-Mole, if you don't know, is Mazzy's thing. He's also in the vinyl community. He does these Whack-A-Mole videos, and then it was made a part of this list. And according to his video, I don't think he appreciated that too much. I think he wants the Whack-A-Mole to be his own thing. So I'll just call this I did a whole video of Whack-A-Mole. He had a contest, so I've done this before. I'm going to go ahead and just pick, I've got a whole other shelf over there. I'm going to pick from this shelf, because these are like the country and the vocal and stuff, and I don't talk about these records as much as I talk about like the rock and soul stuff over there. So I'm gonna pick from over here. Soundtracks are over here, so I'm just gonna grab really quick just something right here. This is a thick one. This is Honeysuckle Rose. This is soundtrack to Willie Nelson movie Honeysuckle Rose. Okay movie. This sounds more like just a basic live album. I mean, the way this soundtrack is put together, this could easily just be Willie and Friends Live Volume 2. The Whiskey River on here, and it was kind of disappointing because it's just him saying the chorus of Whiskey River over it. It doesn't have the verses, so you got to get Willie and Family Live for the actual the hit live version of Whiskey River. But this has got some Pick Up the Tempos on here. On the Road Again, that's actually where the hit version of On the Road Again comes from, is this soundtrack. Bloody Mary Morning is on here, but then again, that's on every Willie Nelson album almost. Yeah, so they got the Cotton Eye Joe on here. Yeah, a lot of great songs on here. Angel Eyes, Angel Flying to the Close to the Ground is on here. What an incredible... That's like one of my favorite Willie Nelson songs, and that is on here as well. So you get this kind of you get the usual live stuff that he likes to do in concert, and then you get a couple of the big hits thrown in as well. So great soundtrack, but doesn't really sound like a soundtrack. Sounds like a live album. So definitely does not disappoint. So that is my random pick. Number 9, what album have you listened to the most in your life? Probably this one. Steve Miller Band, Fly Like an Eagle. My brother had, older brother, had a handful of rock 8 tracks, and that's where I heard rock music for the first time. At that point in my life, 3, 4, 5 years old, I was listening to mostly oldies from the 60s, 50s, or current country. So he was the rock influence early on, like I said, when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. And this was probably my favorite one, and I heard this over and over and over. Now, I've heard Beatles albums again and again, and Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd and all those. But this one was going way back to like 4 years old. So as a matter of fact, I have that picture when they were doing that, time jump thing a couple of years ago on Facebook. I did with me holding this as a child, my 8-track. I've had this. My brother had it on 8-track. Then I got my own 8-track. I got it on cassette, and then I went and got the CD when that was released. I think this is from like 88 or 90. Got the 30th anniversary. This sounds great. Wish they would have done the same thing to Book of Dreams, but they didn't. And of course, the record, which looks like it has. Yeah, I've had this quite a while. I played this. This is one of my when I was a kid, so that's probably why it looks like that. But yeah, Steve Miller Band, "Fly Like an Eagle." That's probably the album I've listened to most. Show an album with a crazy story. I've got crazy stories on other videos, like the video I did of the top 10 most valuable albums according to me, not cost or money, just valuable to me. I did the Pink Floyd The Wall story, which is my favorite record story. It's kind of a longer story, so if you want to hear that one, I would recommend that story. It's pretty cool. Kind of a circle of life thing that's on that video. I talk about my Pat Benatar record experience, my Billy Joel. I think I show a Billy Joel album and go into the whole Columbia House thing. So I have more interesting stories. But the Rolling Stones Get Your Yayas Out is just one of the stories that is like really spotlights the true essence of listening to vinyl records. I remember I had this and I was listening to it in my room. I was on my bed doing homework at the time. I was probably like 18 or 17 or 18 when I got this. I got it used. And 99 cents or $2 or whatever, and it skipped, and it back skipped. And it's during Midnight Rambler. Well, it skips right on the beat. So I had no idea it was skipping. I'm sitting here listening to this thing, jamming out for 20 minutes, working on homework. It took me like 25 minutes to realize, but this is the longest song in the world. How does this record keep playing? And realize that it's actually skipping. And yeah, it took a little while, but I finally figured it out. And the great thing about it is all these years later and all these, I haven't had that many turntables, just a couple. And maybe like 4 or 5 different cartridges. But all these cartridges later, it still skips. It doesn't matter if I've got it on a BSR, old turntable that I had when I was a teenager, or I've got the Grado Gold Elite, whatever that I have now. It still skips in that same spot. So I love that. Nobody else has a Rolling Stones Get Your Yayas Out quite like mine with that skip in there. 11, you're collecting pet peeves. Wow, that's going to get some people talking. The flippers, the people, not people who kind of trade in and out, the record collection or what. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about strictly flippers. It used to be so cool to go to record conventions and record shows and things like that and find like hidden treasures and stuff. That's almost over. I've seen these people that they don't care about people. They don't care about records. They don't care about music. All they care about is turning a profit. And I've seen people come into record shows in like friggin' packs of like 3 and 4. And as soon as the place opens and do these like military baseball call shots or whatever, like, to like the other people, and they'll spread out and then they get to a record thing, and then they got to lean over on the other side so nobody can look while they're looking at these, and then you can finally look at their stack when they're done looking at it. Be okay. That is, way to take the fun out of something, and really for what? Is this like your main job? Get a job. Get a life. Quit messing with people's hobbies. When I used to go into record stores or record shows or whatever, and I would see like, hey, maybe there's the Rolling Stones Get Your Yayas Out. I already have it, but there it is for $1. I would leave it there for somebody else to find. That's for somebody else to find and go, oh my God, I found Get Your Yayas Out for $1. I already have it. I don't need it. There are a couple of artists like the Beatles and Kiss that I have like multiple copies, different pressings of. But I'm not the kind of person that feels like they have to just gobble everything up immediately and screw everybody else, and I'm immediately going to go home on eBay or whatever and just upcharge all this stuff. I'm just not into that at all. I think that's ridiculous. If that's your main job, get a job. Flippers that don't care about anything but turning a profit, definite collecting pet peeve. It is really just taking the fun out of at least the St. Louis record show. 12, an album or genre people would be surprised to know you like it. I don't think anybody would be surprised by anything that I mean, I'm so all over the place. I think that this question is more for like the metal guy or the punk guy or the jazz guy or whatever, psychedelic guy, where you know the metal guy pulls out Barbra Streisand or something. Oh wow! But I don't have any. I mean, I don't think if you've seen a lot of my videos, you know that I'm kind of all over the place. So I don't think anybody would be surprised by anything I have. 13, a record from the year you were born. It's in a frame. I could get the CD, but Black Sabbath, Volume 4, I Will Do You Even Better Than the Year I Was Born. That was released the day I was born. September 25th, 1972, Black Sabbath, Volume 4. And I still want to get like what everybody... I'm still looking for that beige Warner Brothers version. No, I'm still looking for what everybody else is looking for. The Vertigo Swirl version of that. But yeah, September 25th, 1972, Black Sabbath Volume 4, released the day I was born. Number 14, show a 10-inch record and share your opinion of 10-inch records. I don't care for them. Most people don't. It seems like a weird in-between. You know, like LPs have a purpose. 7-inch singles have a purpose. I like taking the old 45s and sometimes stacking them up like on an old record changer and playing them the old-fashioned way, like making the old 45 playlist, basically. That's what those are for. You know, I don't think anybody is collecting 45s for the sound quality or whatever. They're fun little things. They play one song, and you can make a nice playlist by stacking them up. LPs, you already know what's awesome about LPs. And so this is kind of like a weird kind of in-between. And, I got these as promotional items back in the 90s. I don't think I've ever actually bought a 10-inch record. I think it'd be cool if somebody collected them and they had a bunch of them together. I think they're okay. But for me, I only have like 5 of these, and they fit with the albums, and they get lost, and it's just a weird in between that doesn't satisfy the novelty and the immediacy and the energy of the 45, and it definitely doesn't have the length of the album. So this is Green Day's Longview 10-inch limited edition from the 90s. And you can see how much care, that's you wouldn't do necessarily an album like that, And then Elastica Stutter. It's got 4 tracks on it: Stutter, Rock and Roll, 2 to 1, and Annie. Unfortunately, this does not have what was their Connection? Connection was their big song. Okay, we got the 10-inch records out of the way. I never collected 78s either, so I don't have any nostalgia for those either, those 10-inch like 78 records. Number 15, share an interesting fact about an album or song. How about I do a super popular album? This is basically a Toto album. That's the weird thing about this, that a lot of people don't either know or it's never really talked about. Michael Jackson's Thriller, the band that plays on this is a bunch of guys from Toto. So this is basically a Toto album produced by Quincy Jones with vocals by Michael Jackson. Even Beat It. A lot of people think that the guitar riff in that is Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen just does the solo. The guitar riff that goes through the song, guitarist from Toto. Toto, some of the guys even wrote a couple of these songs. I know Human Nature why am I showing you this? You know what Thriller looks like. Human Nature was one of the ones that the guys from Toto. So that's kind of a strange thing that nobody really discusses when they talk about. How many things have been said about Michael Jackson Thriller? There's no shortage of information, but people really don't really go the Toto route with that too often. Where are we at here? Show an album with an animal on the cover. I have to do my favorite animal, a cat. Cat is on the cover of Carole King's Tapestry album. And it kind of fits. I like this one because the cat really fits with the mood. She's barefoot. She's in front of the window. She's got her cat, and she's working on her tapestry. And that is exactly what this album sounds like. This cover is so truth in advertising, and that cat really just seals the deal there. So, not only an animal on a cover, but a very fitting animal on a cover there. A cat on the cover of Carole King's Tapestry album. Okay, so we're up to show an album with crazy artwork. I hate to do this because I've seen a lot of great, crazy, colorful, weird, wild artwork. But I hate to do this, but I have to show the Beatles. Because still, this is the craziest artwork I've ever seen. I don't know what artwork would be crazier than this. I still have yet to hear a satisfactory story about how this came about. I mean, I've read some about the Beatles over the 40 years or whatever. There's been little tidbits about that. Oh yeah, we were in a photo session having a bit of fun. And then I've seen a letter from the guy from Capitol Records saying to pull it. I've never actually heard a definitive story about how this is the most popular band in the world at the time, putting out an album like this. How did this get approved? How did this go to print? How did this go to pressing? How did this get distributed? And then on the day that it's released, all of a sudden somebody goes, oh, you know what? Maybe somebody will have a problem with the Fab Four and a bunch of raw meat and dilapidated baby dolls. Maybe we shouldn't. How did that happen? And you put this on and it plays yesterday. It just isn't very fitting, and it's a crazy album cover. And I mean, I get it. There's heavy metal craziness and punk rock crazy album covers. Nothing to me says completely unexplained like the Beatles' Butcher Sleeve for Yesterday and Today. I still, like I said, have not heard a satisfactory story on how this even exists. Because, in order to get this out, it has to go through all these channels. And apparently everybody just checked them off. Okay. And whose idea was that to begin? It's just, again, crazy. Number 18, show a really good album that you can find for cheap. How about Bob Seger Night Moves? I know this gets played on classic rock radio a lot, and it's kind of been a little worn out because of that. But it's still an incredible album that you can usually get for $1. And of course, since it is played on the radio all the time, you're already familiar with Night Moves, the song. Main Street, Rock and Roll Never Forgets. My favorite on here is Sunspot Baby. Love that growing up. Mary Lou is pretty cool. Sunburst is actually a really good album track on here as well. You get the lyric sheet in here. Looking really nice. Another picture of Bob Seger. But the thing about this is you can find this anywhere for $1 or $2, and it's an album that's going to stand the test of time. It already has. A lot of other great dollar type albums that you can get are these bands that aren't exactly pop but aren't exactly rock. Bands like the Cars. Their first album's incredible. That you can usually get that for $2 or $3, $4. Going even a little more in the pop direction, like somebody like Bryan Adams' Reckless, Huey Lewis and the News Sports, Rick Springfield albums. Those things are full, especially Huey Lewis and the News Sports. Those things are full of hit singles that you've heard, but usually go for $2, $3. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of those '80s, late '70s ones that, and as soon as one of those guys pass away, there go the prices. Here come the flippers. Where's the Huey Lewis? Okay, 19. Show an album with an acquired taste. I'm not showing this because it's an acquired taste. I just am showing this to say thank you to Vinyl Richie for saying finally what needed to be said. Check out his video of his quarantine. Nailed it, by the way. Agree 100%. Album with an acquired taste. Maybe the vocals of John Prine. He passed away recently, and I think a lot of people have been discovering his music, but maybe get a little turned off with his voice. He's from Chicago, but he sounds like he's from the middle of Missouri or Arkansas or something. But this album is brilliant. All the way through. I would put this up against any compilation of his. The very first album, the collection of songs on here is so strong, it beats any John Prine greatest hits. I could give you titles like Hello in there, Spanish Pipe Dream, Angel from Montgomery has been covered several times by people. Paradise has too. Illegal Smile is a clever, kind of fun way to kick this off. It's fun, it's serious, it's funny, it's sad, it's emotional, it's a lot of storytelling type songs. Like I said, absolutely brilliant debut from John Prine. don't let his voice kind of throw you off, though. He's very, very rural sounding, very country sounding, but if you stick with it, you will definitely be rewarded. Number 20, show your most recent find. I got this just as the stores were closing down. I wanted to patronize my local record store one final time before we all went in. I haven't done any shopping online or anything like that since the quarantine, so this would be the last one I got. Ghost Prequel. This has the bonus 7-inch single in there, and this is the colored smoke vinyl. And there was a lot of reviews online talking about how it was warped. You got to watch out for warped ones, but mine thankfully was not warped. I think this actually, let me show you the 7-inch, and actually comes with a poster as well. But I love the whole concept of these guys. These guys come in with a full-on concept, and they've got a great sense of humor. There's the 7-inch there for the remake of the Pet Shop Boys. It's a Sin is what's on there. But just a great sense of humor, great concept. Ghost, and their songs aren't too bad either. I guess that's the main thing you want to go for. But that's actually the last album I bought, and haven't bought any since. And this album I kind of bought because of one of the vinyl tags was like, what's an album you have from this year or last year? And I'm like, I don't really have any. I don't have a lot of current stuff. Most of my records are from the vinyl era. So to get something like Ghost is kind of rare for me. But there it is. There's the 20. Hopefully you were well entertained by this. I know I loved watching a lot of the quarantine vinyl tag videos, and I agree with so many of your what you put out there too. I mean, it's great to see the records that also that I may have not have heard of or don't agree with or whatever. It's all subjective, so it's all relative. But most importantly, it's all fun. So thanks again to Dylan from Noble Records for coming up with this idea. If you know somebody that hasn't been making a video lately, maybe give them this suggestion, and we'll start seeing some people that we haven't seen for a while in here in the vinyl community. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a comment, and if you have not done that, subscribe. I've got other videos on here as well you might like. Robert Fithen. Thanks again for watching.